Hello, class. I decided to do my presentation on the effects of gamification within the modern classroom. Take a second to think about all of the games that surround you. Whether it's on an Xbox or a PS5 or even on your phone, games are all around us. Even reward systems for our favorite restaurants use points in different game systems to encourage us to continue to use them. But this type of gamification doesn't have to end just with a restaurant or with a video game, but there are ways to bring this into our daily classroom. First off, every classroom is different. One thing that I found quite successful is to survey your class. You can find what games they love. You can then take elements from those games and apply them to the style of gamification you're going to use. Like if your students love Minecraft, they could love creativity with choosing their own path. Or maybe they enjoy a game like Fortnite that involves a large level of competition and also that creativity. Through this, we can get an idea of what our classroom needs and what could work inside of our different classrooms. From there, we can develop a point system or a certain app that we could use to follow this. But when we first think of gamification, oftentimes we think of a smartboard or iPads or computers. But really, gamification can be more than just video games or something that is on the digital platform. While we're doing this, it could be something like a scavenger hunt, or even if they have collecting around the classroom. But as we employ these different types of gamification, there's several different factors that we can use to encourage our students. The first one I'd like to point out is leaderboards. I know for myself that I'm a very competitive person. And if I can see something in front of me that's ranking me or showing how much work I've done, it is going to give me a reason to want to try even more. One great thing I've found that works in my classrooms is a participation board. From there, we just put on the board how many times that they've been active on the app or active in the game. And then from there, you continue to track their progress. One thing that was recommended to me also that could be helpful for a teacher is to use code names. Some students aren't quite comfortable with their stats or their academic level being broadcasted in front of the entire classroom. So code names are a great way to get those students who may not be quite as proficient at your subject to still participate and not have to worry about the shame or peer pressure from other students. Also, an activity leaderboard. As you do this, they can get points, they can accumulate them, then they can use those points to get rewards. Think about like your Chick-fil-A app. The more you buy Chick-fil-A sandwiches, the more points you get, the more free stuff you get, the more you want to buy. We can use these things to incentivize our student activity. Another great thing that I've seen is very effective is the use of badges. This recognizes their mastery of concepts, like maybe they get a graphing a parabola badge. And from there, you can put the badges on the board. They could be digital, or you can make physical badges that students can keep put on their backpacks, something to track their progress. You can even consider letting your students help make badges. The more the students feel involved, the more they will be involved. If they feel like they're a part of the process, they're going to want to continue to press forward in the system that you've created for them. We can also give them quests, tasks, missions. Hidden tasks or scavenger hunts can be great for gamification within a classroom. We can even give them quest lines. This allows students to have many paths to learn. They could choose a path to go for even like a project. If you were having a certain book report or if you were having them solve some type of large equation, obviously there are many different ways to solve these kinds of things. So as we teach our students, we should be careful not to put them in such a small box that we squash creativity. Once again, the more students feel involved, the more they will want to be involved. One interesting idea that I also saw online was current event hunts. This allows students to hunt down information online, and even sometimes I've seen teachers ask their students questions and they would award them points on those different topics. So a student would pick a topic, the teacher would keep track of that, and they would use that as a game for points to continue to rack their points up on their leaderboard. But with all of this, it has to be fun, doable, and challenging. There is a very thin line between doable and challenging. We don't want our games within the classroom to be so easy that our students are not interested. But if the challenges are so difficult that a majority of our students can't solve them, they will never get interested. This is where there's some nuance, and you have to know your class. And as you learn to grow, to understand them, to know them on a more personal level, you can just really create a system to where it fits and works for them. And as always, it has to be fun or they will never, never do it. Here we can see a few effects of gamification. One thing I've seen in the educational system is that we tend to be quite set in our ways and we try to resist change. If something has worked in the past, why would we even try to change it? The overall structure of the classroom has been relatively untouched. I am a supporter of a traditional classroom setting, but I believe there is room to implement some of these newer and popular teaching methods that are growing. We want to remember that we have to teach them without the fear of risk. We want to teach them that they don't have to be scared to risk. Isn't that what we want them to do as students? We want them to go out on a limb and risk something and reach out. And gamification can be great for this. Many of my students would not be willing to jump up in the middle of class and yell out an answer, but I know they'd be willing to type it into a computer. And through that, we can just build platforms for our students to build all of this confidence. Gamification truly opens up the door to many of our students who may have social anxiety. One thing I noticed in my study was even speaking to different students in our school. When the students are younger, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all throughout primary school, they're so excited to go to school. And when they get home, I'd ask my little brother what he learned today. And he would just spout off all of this knowledge and tell me all the cool things he learned in school today. But I'm a middle school teacher, and when I ask my students anything about their day, if it's not about sports or some type of drama, there's really no interest that's going on. So we have to innovate like we always have. And I believe a great way to innovate within our classrooms today to reach our middle school and high school age students is gamification. We can see that it's discovery learning based in our primary schools, but really as we move to middle school, high school, we begin to try to pump out these cookie cutter students. And it's not really discovery anymore. It's become rote learning, which is just repetition over and over and over. And if I say it enough times as a teacher, I'm just going to hope that my students get a hold of it. But if we are doing education properly, we want our students to learn to discover things, to experiment. And I believe it is the responsibility of the teacher to find a way to do this. Past this, what do our students think? What do our students need? You need to ask them what they dislike. Find what fits them best. Now, this doesn't mean that your students are going to run your classroom, but if they absolutely despise something, there may be some merit in figuring out a way to make the classroom less miserable for them. Now, I don't believe that every time they find something not as fun as a extremely interactive game that you should just pitch it, but we should listen to our students. After talking to my students, I noticed a few different trends. Two things. School is boring, and I do not need it for real life. I've heard it so many times. Why do I need to know this random math equation or how to solve for all these different things? How is that going to apply to my life? And I tell them critical thinking skills, all these different things. But even past that, we need to find ways to bring interest back into the classroom. Some of them would say, why should I care? We have to think about what our students are feeling, what our students are seeing within our classrooms. What can we change? I believe we should give students more options. Projects should be open-ended. We need to give students guidelines, but not shackles. Now, this can be quite challenging for a teacher like myself who's teaching math. Oftentimes, math can be quite black and white, but if we take the time to truly study out our material and find ways to involve other activities, you'll find that even mathematics is quite open-ended. There's many things that you can involve and use and implement to make class more fun. I played a game with my students. It was like that game. The name is slipping my mind, but it's the game where you have the little starship and you're shooting all the little asteroids and they're coming in at you and you gotta stop the alien ships. And we played that game, but the only way you could shoot these asteroids was by solving arithmetic or solving a multiplication problem or solving a simple equation. And they went from hating their homework to loving it and trying to climb the leaderboards on this simple math app. We really need to just give students more avenues to learn. Let the students be creative. If our students feel confined and stuck inside this small box, they will never learn to get out of that box and truly be the innovators that we need for the future. Game design and education can be quite challenging, but everyone loves games. Like we talked about earlier, think about your favorite fast food places that give you points. I know for a fact, if there is a triple stars day at Starbucks, I am way more likely to go get myself a pumpkin spice latte. If I know that Chick-fil-A gave me free points for a Chick-fil-A sandwich, I'm probably going to go there and spend quite a bit of money. So if we love to see points racking up on our phones for food, how much more would our students enjoy that in the classroom? Gamification is the same thing. We need to give our students rewards for doing things. Oftentimes in education, it's so easy just to focus on the negative. You talk to my class, you get a demerit, or you didn't do your homework. That's minus 25 in your weekly homework assignment grade. While those things are important and have a place in the classroom, what are we doing that is positive? Are we just saying good job and giving them a hand clap? We need to truly innovate our classrooms to incentivize student learning. Think about why Minecraft is so popular. It's full of creativity, free choice, and there's never anything wrong with fun if it is controlled and in the right setting. We've said all this stuff, we've talked about how it's great, how it's good, but as a teacher you would ask, how can I implement this into my classroom? The first issue we face is the fear of change. We have to overcome this fear. The only way to overcome this fear is to take a step out. And as administrators, we must support our teachers, and teachers must be willing to be okay with failing in front of students. If we're not willing to take risks and fail in front of our students, how could we ever expect them to take a risk in front of us? I can remember many times where I'll get up and I'll try a harder equation and I might forget the formula that I need to solve it, or something goes wrong in my arithmetic. It's in these moments that my students actually point out where I went wrong, and all of a sudden the equation that they had no interest in, all of a sudden everybody is focused on it because the teacher made a mistake and now I'm going to tell them how to do it right. But if we create an environment that's safe and that is made for learning, our students will be much more apt to take those risks. We also have to overcome a lack of training. Many teachers in our system are not quite tech savvy. I can even see it within our own staff. We have a lot of young staff, but we do have quite a few older teachers that even when we're talking about emails or sending out mass texts, they can struggle with those simple technological things. The solution is simply to pair them up with somebody who does understand it, whether that's administration or whether that is some other teacher that understands. We have to set up a system where our teachers are given the proper training that they need. If a teacher can't learn how to use a computer, they may need to work on their teaching skills, because if we can't learn, we truly can't teach. Introducing gamification to the classroom can be quite challenging. As a math teacher, I've seen that many students have math anxiety. They walk in the room and their heads drop immediately. Games have actually shown me that they can be used to calm my students down. But also, just a word of advice, these games need to be introduced with discretion. I still believe students should be involved primarily in classic education. If everything becomes a game, you will not have enough time to actually teach them anything. We must remember that gamification is a supplement and not the actual focus of our teaching. We should also consider even adding games that they can do as homework or for even a short exercise in a class. It's important to get our students involved and give them a pathway for them to do this. Just a few online resources that I've found, like Academics or ExperienceFire, Brainscape, ChemCaper, Geniali, Kahoot. There's all these different things that we can just use to get our students involved, and it's truly up to us to find those resources and to use them.